What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Michael and welcome to Fudge Muppet. Fallout New Vegas arguably has the best characters out of any Fallout game, especially when you consider all of the deep, fleshed out companions on offer, even the temporary ones from the DLCs. Fallout New Vegas companions make up a large chunk of the favorite Fallout characters of just about every player I know, and there's no doubt as to why. However, Fallout New Vegas is not a game which merely makes the companions interesting and lets all of the other characters be boring. No, New Vegas contains some of the most sensational non-companion NPCs to ever grace the Fallout universe. I don't know about you guys, but I've been feeling pretty nostalgic recently, and it just so happens that I wanted to get some more New Vegas on the channel. With this video, I've decided to take you through our top 10 characters, not including any of the companions or temporary ones. But if you want to see a companions video, let us know in the comments section and maybe we'll put something together soon. Also, I should warn you that here at Fudge Muppet, we think Caesar's Legion are really cool, so quite a few members will be featuring in this video. If you want a separate video on the full backstory on some of these characters, let us know which ones. Also, Fallout New Vegas spoilers warning. And with that said, let's dive straight in with spot number 10, Marcus. Those of you who have played a lot of Fallout 2 absolutely love this intelligent super mutant who uses his intelligence and reasoning for the good of the wasteland. If you're wondering why we haven't ranked him higher on this list, it's because this is solely a Fallout New Vegas video and he doesn't have the same presence in this installment as he did in Fallout 2. Nevertheless, discovering Marcus in Jacobstown was massively appreciated. For those of you who don't know, Marcus was once a member of the Master's army, but after the Master was defeated, Marcus wandered around aimlessly in search of more mutants. Originally, he really believed in the Master's cause, but he is much more tolerant now. Jacobstown is actually named after Marcus's old friend, a Brotherhood of Steel paladin named Jacob. When the two first encountered each other, they fought, but both being unable to defeat each other, they eventually laughed it off and became friends. Together they wandered the wastes, growing a following and founding the community called Broken Hills. After the events of Fallout 2, in which Marcus helped the Chosen One save the people of Arroyo from the Enclave, he went back to Broken Hills until its uranium mine ran dry. It was now economically useless, and the inhabitants deserted the place. Marcus headed east across the Great Mountains, searching for other super mutants like himself. Eventually he reached the Mojave, founding a new community of super mutants on top of Black Mountain. Now, if you've played New Vegas, you'd know this place went down the tubes when an insane nightkin called Tabitha turned the less intelligent group against Marcus and his supporters, forcing them to leave. That's when they went to Mount Charleston and founded what Marcus decided to call Jacobstown. Marcus spends his time here helping and protecting schizophrenic nightkin, working alongside Dr. Henry, a former Enclave scientist, to find a cure. Another very memorable encounter in Fallout New Vegas occurs in Nipton, where you find the most badass Legion Frumentari member, their leader, Vulpes Incolta. This guy comes in at spot number 9. As you walk through the town of Nipton, which has just been slaughtered, there's powder gangers crucified to your left and right, and massive piles of flaming tires sending smoke into the sky, filling it with the scent of corpses. As you take this in, Vulpes Incolta walks towards you, wearing black wasteland goggles and a wolf's head as a hood. There's Legion scouts and hounds all around him, and you expect he would surely end you too. However, Vulpes is smarter than that. He uses you, tells you to spread the word of the atrocities committed here. He tells you Nipton was a wicked place, debased and corrupt. This is why he destroyed it in such a fashion. Vulpes has actually been a member of Caesar's Legion since he was a child. He was from a not-so-special tribe in Utah, thrown into the Legion and put through vigorous training. He survived, becoming a legionary, and through battle being promoted to the rank of Decanus. He is a risky tactician and even disobeyed orders in a tribal battle, leading his squad through a hole in enemy defenses and capturing their chieftain. His centurion wanted him crucified for such defiance, but Caesar saw potential, and good thing he did. Vulpes Incolta now leads the Frumentari, who are the Legion's spies, and he is the mastermind behind many of their violent yet tactical decisions. Not only did he command the actions at Nipton, but he also destroyed Camp Searchlight, making unintelligent legionaries release radioactive waste from containers found in the city's fire station. These legionaries died, but this actually allowed the Legion to successfully cross the Colorado River and create a base at Cottonwood Cove due to the fact that it severely smashed the NCR's dominance in the area. Next up, we've got an absolute classic, one of the most zany, unexpected characters in Fallout New Vegas, Yesman. You found Yesman in a secret room joined to Benny's suite in the Tops, and if you felt the same way as me, you were very surprised. Who would have thought Benny's secret weapon was a Securitron robot with a super big smiley face on the display screen? Yesman was once like every other robot, robot working for Mr. House, and as a result, he has access to lots of hidden information about how Mr. House operates at the Lucky 38 casino. Now, however, Yesman is very different and no longer has an allegiance to Mr. House. In fact, he has been reprogrammed in such a way that he cannot decline a single order he is given, nor can he withhold any secret information. After meeting him, Yesman will help you infiltrate the Lucky 38, installing himself in Mr. House's position, helping you gain access to a hidden army of upgraded Securitron robots, and then letting you take over the wasteland however you please. He maintains his pleasant attitude at all times, even when you tell him to throw General Oliver off Hoover Dam in the final mission of the game. But where did this personality come from? Who is Yesman? Well, when he was a normal Securitron, he was damaged by a pulse grenade. Benny and several of the chairmen found him on the strip and recovered him, allowing Emily Ortle, a Followers of the Apocalypse member, to examine the robot. She could examine him, learning secrets of Mr. House, and in exchange, she would reprogram the machine for Benny's personal use. This is what resulted in Yesman being designed to do exactly as he is told. Yesman is not just his name, it's what he does. Now, a better character than Yesman himself is of course the previous owner of him, Benny. Voiced by Matthew Perry, that is Chandler from Friends, Benny is one of the most standout personalities in the Wasteland. The way he speaks with the unique 50s slang really makes him memorable, but this suave cat ain't just a player who asks you to shake your charlies for the Ben Man. No, Benny is far more interesting than that. You see, Benny is the head of the chairman of New Vegas, and while he may seem like he has more charisma than brains, he's the mastermind behind the plan of using Yesman to usurp control of all of New Vegas. He aimed to dispose of Mr. House, install Yesman's AI onto the Lucky 38 mainframe, thereby putting Yesman and therefore him in control of the Securitrons on the strip. Part 2 of this plan was to get the Platinum chip, take it to the fort, which is Legion-controlled territory, and use it in an underground bunker to gain control of Mr. House's secret weapon. He would then use this weapon to take over the wasteland, including Hoover Dam. Benny didn't know what he would find in the bunker, but the player can follow his plan with Yesman discovering there to be an army of Securitrons in hiding. What you may not know about Benny and the chairman is that they actually used to be tribals. Benny was part of a tribal gang called the Boot Riders before Mr. House took over New Vegas. The Boot Riders were made to renovate the Tops Casino, they were given suits and ties, and renamed entirely. Benny is an absolute savage and attempted to carry out his plan without the other chairmen knowing. Born a vicious tribal, he'll do anything and betray anyone to fulfill his goals. Luckily, you, the courier, have other plans. Well, that's the first 4 characters who we'd place at rank 10, 9, 8, and 7 on our top 10 characters list. Here's who we'd put in at number 6. Mr. House. While Mr. House may at first just seem like a boring businessman talking to you on a screen, there's a lot more to him than meets the eye. Mr. House is actually pre-war, and at the time of Fallout New Vegas, he's technically 261 years old. He was born to super wealthy parents who died in a freak accident, leaving him an orphan with a brother who robbed him of all of his inheritance. Nevertheless, Robert Edwin House went to the Commonwealth Institute of Technology and eventually founded Robco Industries in his hometown of LA. He was only 22 when he did this, and as you'll realize, he is quite simply a genius. Robco went on to become one of the most profitable businesses in the entire world, and is responsible for all of the robots you love and hate, such as Assaultrons, Sentrybots, and Protectrons. He then used his power and money to gain controlling interests in the Lucky 38 Hotel and Casino and Repcon Aerospace. He even gained control of H&H Tools, which was the family business his brother stole from him. He did it in a very hostile manner on the stock market, getting revenge on his sibling. Mr. House was also very fascinated by the probability of certain global political events. He used his brains to develop complex predictions which outlined how the world would be destroyed by nuclear war within 15 years. This knowledge, in addition to inside military intel that proved 77 Chinese warheads were aimed at Las Vegas, made him hatch a special plan. House wanted to live. He wanted to see the world after the war. He had too much potential. This is what he did. Firstly, he programmed a group of mainframes with satellite links in order to disable most of the Chinese missiles mid-flight. Then he created and installed a bunch of high-power laser cannons on the roof of the Lucky 38. This would be able to shoot down any other missiles he missed. Then he hooked himself up to an incredibly complicated life support machine, the hibernation chamber. Then his brain was wired into his information network, basically making him a giant AI supercomputer. He then had a platinum chip delivered to him so he could upgrade his Securitrons and the laser defense network, but 20 hours before it arrived, the bombs fell. Not having having his operating system upgraded by the chip, he had to work with an earlier version and suffered multiple problems as a result. His system crashed many times, forcing him into a coma. House regained consciousness in 2138 and emerged into the public eye again in 2274. Securitrons carried out his bidding and he rebuilt New Vegas with the help of tribes, who would later become known as the Three Families. Now for the final top 5 characters of Fallout New Vegas. In spot number 5, we've got a seriously wacky character from the Old World Blues DLC, none other than the one and only, the infamous Dr. Mobius. Old World Blues spoiler warning, by the way. Dr. Mobius is an antagonist of Old World Blues, which is the DLC that involves you being teleported to a privately owned pre-war science facility. The facility was once hidden underground underneath a big mountain, hence the name Big Mountain. However, the mountain was vaporized due to a failed experiment and now only a crater remains. Dr. Mobius is a special robot called a think tank, which was actually invented and named by the pre-war group he was a part of, also called the Think Tank. If things couldn't get even more confusing, the big dome structure located in the Big Mountain is also called the Think Tank. Anyways, Mobius was part of a group of scientists who conducted a variety of unethical and out-of-control pre-war experiments, such as the one which vaporized their mountain. The research done here by Mobius and the rest of the team was considered as groundbreaking as it was unethical, and a lot of the time it was conducted on living humans. We cannot know the original names of the 6 scientists working in the think tank, but they were not always think tank robots, but rather humans. However, to preserve themselves from the impacts of the Great War, a project was carried out to transform each of the executives into a kind of brain bot, one that allowed them to continue their research. Now, the funny thing about Mobius is that while he's the antagonist, you will find that he meant well when you look into his past. So as the experiments of the think tank group grew increasingly sinister, Mobius actually grew disgusted with it all. He really believed that these scientists and himself, all now robots, had truly lost what remained of their humanity. As a result, he set up a radar fence around the perimeter of Big Mountain, preventing any of the scientists from leaving and experimenting elsewhere. He then hacked his colleagues' shells, leaving them new names and making them forget large chunks of their personalities. He then hacked their databanks and reprogrammed everything to erase their sense of time and history, fabricating fake facts about himself to focus the remaining scientists' attention on him. He tricked them that his robo-scorpions feed on intelligence from brains, and that he was exiled for extremely serious crimes, so disgusting that they cannot remain in recorded memory. He also invented the idea that Big Mountain is all that remains of the world. This created mangled versions of the scientists, and disgusted with his own actions, Mobius fled to the Forbidden Zone, even removing parts of his own memory to make him feel better. He then recreated robo-scorpions, which were an invention he wiped from his memory, and used them as an army to spy on and control Big Mountain. With his wacky dialogue that gets broadcasted around the map and an intent less sinister than you expected, Mobius is one unforgettable character. Coming in spot number 4, we have one of the deeper characters you can find in any Fallout game, and his philosophical quotes and deep voice really make him stand out. Yes, that's right, I'm talking about Ulysses, and a summary of his story can show you why he is so interesting. Ulysses was originally a member of a tribe called the Twisted Hairs, hence the dreadlocks. This tribe was extremely powerful, and Caesar's legion, at a much smaller, earlier stage, made an alliance with them in order to conquer Arizona. Ulysses became a very successful scout for both his tribe and the legion. However, Caesar betrayed the Twisted Hairs tribe, enslaving and assimilating them. Those who resisted were crucified along the sides of Interstate 40. It was painful for Ulysses, but he stayed on with the legion, becoming a vital member of the Frumentari. He wandered the wastes as a courier, learning that many other legion spies were also couriers, and therefore he should not kill any. Ulysses was the first scout to see the NCR in Hoover Dam, and told Caesar what he saw, but thought Caesar's obsession with the place might kill him, whether he won or lost. Continuing his exploration, Ulysses found a community at a place called the Divide. It was prospering, and he saw it as a place with true potential to be his new home, a second chance, with new ways of thinking outside of the strict teachings of the Legion. Sadly, the NCR soon annexed the area, and then Caesar sent in a small army to take it over. Before he could do anything about it, the courier, that is the player, brought a package from Navarro which turned out to be a device which soon detonated underground nuclear warheads, killing almost everyone in the area. The courier left before the detonation, and Ulysses almost died in it, but was saved by medical iBots who recognized the American flag on his back. He held the courier responsible for the annihilation of what could have been his real home, and at the time he felt inspired that one single person could actually have such a huge impact on history. Caesar then sent him to rally the Whitelegs against New Canaan in an attempt to destroy destroy them and Joshua Graham, the Whitelegs braided their hair into dreadlocks in his honor. They did not know this was a mockery of his demolished tribe, the Twisted Hairs. Ulysses put his life with Caesar behind him. He wanted to find a way to reawaken America. He wandered around being a bighorn rancher while collecting his thoughts, roaming as a courier, even tracking down the facility at Big Mountain and speaking with Father Elijah, Knight Royce, Dr. Klein, and even Mobius. From Christine Royce, he learned that the Brotherhood of Steel wouldn't be able to create the future he wanted to live in. From the think tank, he learned that nuclear missile silos in the heart of the Divide were still to be activated. So off he went, planning to reshape the world in the same way the courier reshaped the Divide. Still taking jobs as a courier, he was going to deliver the platinum chip, but when he saw the courier's name on the list, that is the player, and realized they were still alive, he decided to let them take it. He expected the Mojave to kill the courier. Later, he broadcasts a simple message for the player. He wants the courier to come to the wreckage west of Prim, to make the courier witness the destruction of their new home in the wasteland, in the same way the courier did for him with the Divide. Taking out the bronze, we have someone who is probably the most intimidating character in the entire game, Legatenius. This guy is the definition of a beast. Savage, relentless, unforgiving. He lacks the philosophical depth of Ulysses and the cunning plans of Vulpes, considering any form of trickery or manipulation to be dishonest. Lanius is brute force incarnate, earning himself the name the Monster of the East. He is the military commander of all of Caesar's forces in the field and is legendary for his devotion to Caesar and for his ability to sense weakness in any army. He is the second legate of the Legion, the former being Joshua Graham. If you ask Caesar where Lanius is from, he gives you a story which I deem most accurate. The other account, which seems to be less likely to me, comes from Lucius, who claims that Lanius was already a legionary by the age of 12. Maybe he meant simply in terms of might, but even Ulysses mentions that Lanius is never seen without his mask, and that his own slaves are struck blind so as not to look upon his face. Ulysses cannot even be certain it has always been the same person behind the mask. All of this adds quite a lot of mystery to this monster. Perhaps different people playing the same persona would explain conflicting accounts about his traits. For example, Caesar claims Lanius has no love for his legion, and people say he only leads it out of respect for Caesar. However, in action this is undetectable. He seems very proud to be a member of the legion and only dislikes those in it who disobey orders and aren't willing to fight for the cause. Also in Caesar's story, Lanius has half of his face ripped off, but when you remove his helmet after fighting him, you will see an unscathed face. Anyways, back to Caesar's story, the most likely one in my opinion. Caesar says that Lanius comes from one of the many tribes the Legion conquered. The tribe was called the Hydebarks, and Lanius was the tribe champion, which was a separate position to that of chieftain. He was an absolute warrior and would go off ambushing entire groups of legionaries whenever he could. This hostility was met with the force of the Legion, who tracked down his tribe and forced them to surrender. They had no chance, so fighting was useless. Lanius was still furious by this decision and saw this as pure betrayal from his tribe. In a bloodthirsty rage, he turned on them and began killing them all, and he killed 15 of his tribal members single-handedly as well as the chieftain before he was eventually knocked unconscious. When he awoke, most of his face was torn off, and Caesar stood beside him, offering him a place in the Legion and a unique mask forged in the image of the great god of war, Mars. He accepted Caesar's offer, but in doing so he requested permission to kill the survivors of the Hydebarks tribe. Caesar agreed, but said only the adult men were to be killed. If you talk to Joshua Graham about him, he says that he did not know of him while he was with the Legion, suggesting that he was indeed recruited after the first Battle of Hoover Dam. This is more in line with Caesar's story and dispels a lot of the conspiracy theories around him. Anyways, Lanius went on to conquer over 19 tribes and has led the conquest of Colorado since. Described as a man not to be crossed, I think I'll end this one with a quote from the legate himself.
We shall see how brave you are when nailed to the walls of Hoover Dam, your body facing west so you may watch your world die.
Now it's time for me to reveal position number 2, and also very shortly, position number 1. You see, both of these characters have a story which involves the other. Let's start with position number 2. Here we have the legendary Burned Man, the mythical Malpais legate, Joshua Graham. Joshua Graham is a legend among low-ranking Legion members and slaves who talk about him in a very superstitious way. They believe he survived the torturous death Caesar inflicted on him and seeks to return one day for his revenge. In the Honest Hearts DLC, you can find Joshua Graham in the flesh, or the bandages really. Graham has in fact survived, and is currently the war chief of the Dead Horses tribe, deep within Zion Canyon. Here he helps them defend the valley from the Whitelegs, opposing tribals who Caesar intentionally rallied against Joshua and the new Canaanites. By helping the Dead Horses to defeat the Whitelegs, he can take vengeance for their slaughter at New Canaan, his hometown, and hopefully find redemption for his past crimes. But what past crimes? Who is Joshua Graham? Well, before Lanius, there was a first legate, and this was Joshua Graham. Joshua Graham grew up in New Canaan, a Mormon town built in the ruins of Ogden in northern Utah. Here he was learning to become a missionary with the aim of spreading the word of God. In 2246, he left Utah to do exactly this, and headed to Arizona, where he stumbled across two followers of the apocalypse, Bill Calhoun and Edward Sallow. These two had been sent off to study the many tribal languages which were springing up in the post-apocalyptic wasteland. Graham was actually fluent in many of these languages and volunteered to help them. Visiting the Blackfoot tribe, the group was either tricked or Graham made a translation error. No one knows for sure, but they soon realized they wouldn't be allowed to leave. It was a sticky situation, seeing as the Blackfoots were at war with 7 other tribes and were losing big time. Bill didn't agree with this, but Edward Sallow hatched a plan. He wanted to survive, so he decided to teach the highly uneducated tribe the art of warfare. They were taught to use guns, to operate with small unit tactics, to craft explosives, and to divide and conquer. Edward Sallow impressed these tribals so much that they made him their leader. Now, Edward Sallow is going to take the #1 spot on our top 10 characters list because he is, in fact, Caesar himself. Edward led the Blackfoots to victory against the other tribes, with Joshua Graham as his military command. Originally, Graham was just a translator, but this quickly turned into giving orders, training the tribals, and leading them in battle. For a humble man of God, Graham was surprisingly good at this. Call it genetics and the unwavering belief that God had his back. With the tribes destroyed and many members incorporated into Caesar's army, the Legion was formed and Joshua Graham became Caesar's first legate. Graham would later come to regret getting swept up in Caesar's rise to power, but before this stage of life, he would first let his brutality and menace run wild. The atrocities Joshua committed in the name of the Legion made him feared by friends and enemies. His death at the hands of 1st Recon NCR sharpshooters was reported at least 5 times, and yet he wasn't dead. This unpredictable fighter was trusted by Caesar so much that he was made to lead the first battle of Hoover Dam. Sadly, the Legion were tricked into following the NCR as they retreated into Boulder City, where C4 was set off and many Legion troops were killed. The NCR then advanced and forced the Legion away. Now, Caesar was an absolute brute himself and was so determined to uphold the values of the Legion that he actually made an example out of Joshua Graham. He had Joshua coated in pitch, set on fire, and thrown into the Grand Canyon. Caesar set an example that he wouldn't accept failure from even the highest ranked members, and while this might seem wasteful, and it certainly is cruel, it also conveys one of the most interesting characters in the Fallout universe, an absolutely unbreakable, unyielding spirit, someone with no fear, dedicated solely to power and domination. You may hate Caesar, and rightly so, but there's no denying he is one fascinating warlord. Somehow Joshua Graham survived, and the event rekindled his faith in God and removed his vanity, killing his ego. Joshua returned to New Canaan, but couldn't live peacefully for long. Caesar knew he lived there, sending the Whitelegs to attack the town, sending him and another missionary fleeing towards Zion Canyon. This is where he is now settled, and he has since become the leader of the tribals there, just like Caesar once did with the Blackfoots. The burned man now wants revenge, but also redemption. He regrets his past, believing himself to have cultivated the start of a totalitarian society dominated by one man, Caesar. Now, Caesar comes in at spot #1 on our list for the character development arc we've explained in Joshua's story. He went from being a member of the followers of the apocalypse to a warlord who engulfed all in his path under the banner of one monolithic culture, a tactic which he mirrored from ancient Rome. He spawned his own religion around the Legion too, telling all the members that he was in fact the son of Mars. No one knows this isn't true, and any who speak out against him are quickly killed. Ironically, Sallow was once an NCR citizen. His father was killed by raiders when he was 2 years old, and he fled with his mother until they found sanctuary with the followers, receiving a free education in the process. He was naturally intelligent and charismatic, but he still did not grow up to become popular among his peers, for he was narcissistic and egotistical. He employed tactics from ancient Rome in addition to dividing and conquering. For example, he conquered one tribe by bringing their emissary to a pile of dead bodies he built out of other tribes who didn't surrender. Through intimidation, he was able to prevent bloodshed and grow his army even larger. Brutality was at the the core of his tactics, and he used the commentary as his blueprint. No one would know he had just copied an ancient empire. Caesar chose to emulate the Roman Empire for many reasons. He believed individualism had no place in fighting against challenges in a post-apocalyptic world. An individual's identity would stem from their contribution to the whole of society, the legion, and nothing else. Modern-day individualism would appear to the legion as a useless luxury. Roman-style assimilation was also another major strategy he saw use in. By destroying the identities of the various tribes he conquered and having methods in place to replace other cultures with his own, he created unity. By 2274, he had conquered almost all of western New Mexico, northern Arizona, eastern Utah, and southwest Colorado. Along with Joshua Graham, 86 tribes had been destroyed or assimilated by one man who grew an army out of a tribe facing doom. Soon, Caesar met his first defeat at Hoover Dam and punished Joshua for his failure and later recruited Lanius. Caesar sees democracy as the weakness of the NCR and believes if they are successful, they will simply rebuild with the system of the old world and repeat the cycle of eventual destruction. He sees totalitarian governance as the only way to ensure everlasting peace. Like I said, you don't have to like Caesar, but he definitely is one unique wastelander. And that concludes this Fallout New Vegas video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you want to see more New Vegas on the channel, definitely let us know. Please give this video a like if you think it deserved it, subscribe for more content like it, and let us know what characters are your favorite in the comment section, not including the companions. Social media links are in the description. My name is Michael, and I look forward to nerding out with you again very soon.